Yeah, very good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, chalo. We'll start.
Okay, sir.
Okay. In the last class, we spoke of Naxpomika. Okay. I hope all of you are clear with what we spoke with Naxpomika. And we had repeated revisions. I've also given you the important questions, both exam point of view and of course the main focus was your future. That was the practical part. Okay. So both in detail we have discussed in Exponenta. Similarly, we have another interesting remedy. Okay. And see, this remedy is so often used by many homeopaths that it is so famous that many times this particular remedy is given without knowing the indications. Meaning, it is the most widely used homeopathic remedy in the homeopathic fraternity. At the same time, this remedy is abused, meaning without indications, blindly it is being prescribed. So it shows how important the remedy is that we are going to discuss today. And I'll just start with a small case. There was a small boy who was brought to my clinic, some 3.5 years old boy. He had very bad stools. Kindly concentrate on the case. This case will give us a lot of information about the remedy that we are going to speak. So he had loose stools and he used to pass some 10 to 12 times, very watery and bad smelling stools. And the moment he eats food or the moment he drinks something, he complains of loose stools. And the look of the child, we have the video and some other platforms. I can see the video and the follow. The child was looking very weak, very dull, very restless. And generally, when we deal with such cases, especially the acute cases, according to organ, according to organa, we definitely ask for the exciting cause, meaning why did this child suffer with this cause? Okay, and the grandma who had brought the child told us like he ate something out. Okay, so as a second year student, what do you understand in this case? What are all the key points that you have got in this case? I'm not asking you too much. I know you're in second year, but the past experience with you, you have been interacting very well. So that prompted me to come out with a case and check what exactly you have understood from a very simple case. What are your inputs? What did you understand in this case? Yeah, very good. So Shreyansh says, sir, there was diarrhea after eating junk. It's not exactly junk. He ate outside food. Okay. So now, from okay, very good. Sana says the child is very restless. Beautiful observation. Shreyank has a point. Okay. Any other inputs from your side? No inputs. Okay. So now, at least what you as a budding homeopath need to understand is this is a simple case of uh, food poisoning, wherein the child eats outside and he lands up with loose stools and he lands up with vomiting, and the stools are very very offensive. As somebody rightly pointed out, Sahana, if I remember, see, she could identify that the child was restless. Similarly, few more peculiar symptoms that we need to identify is the ailments started after eating out, and the character of stool is very, very important. This thin watery, agreed. More than that, it was very offensive. The grandma would tell the entire room stinks. When you pass stools, The entire room stinks. It says how offensive these tools were. Okay. So some key points you can pick up from this case. There is restlessness, there is offensiveness, there is weakness, and all the problems started after eating out. Okay. So when you study the remedy that I am going to discuss today, and this boy was given a simple remedy, and next day evening, mother calls up. They were planning to admit the child because he was looking very weak. Physically and mentally was looking very weak, very drained. He was looking dehydrated. The mother who did not accompany the child to my clinic, next day afternoon or next day morning, she wanted to check with me, sir, should we admit the child? And next day evening, uh, same mother calls back telling there's no vomiting, there's no loose stools, and child is much better. So in this case, we could prevent the child getting admitted to a hospital. Instead of giving those all IV fluids, all antibiotics, all those things could be prevented. Definitely, you can also prevent such hospitalizations or many serious situations you can handle beautifully with homeopathic remedies. But the only point here is you should understand this beautiful science very correctly. If you understand this science, then you can do a lot of wonders, a lot of magic. So we'll go ahead. So this child was given a remedy, the remedy that I'll be discussing today in detail. And as majority of you know, the remedy that we'll be discussing. Especially remember that acute totality, that restlessness, that offensiveness, okay, that debility, that weakness. The first remedy that should come to your mind is arsenicum alb. Arsenicum alb. That is the remedy that I am going to discuss today. Is the voice clear? Okay, that's the remedy I am going to discuss today. Now, continuing with our interaction, continuing with the promise that we'll keep the, yeah, there's some issues with. Is it clear now? Yeah. So, continuing with the promise of keeping the class interactive, I have three small images here, and each of the picture that I've shown will represent a drug in a remedy. So, at least this, which is the remedy that pig. Many times pig is compared to which remedy in our materia medica? Pig is compared to, very good, yes, good. Pig is compared to antimonium crudum. Correct, absolutely right. Many of you got, yes, yes, I'm happy. Many of you got the answer right. And you know why pig is compared to antimonium crudum? Like, it could be the skin, or it could be the dirtiness, or it could be that eating. Yeah, the few points which points out that the person resembles to some animal, and that animal is pig, and the remedy is antimonium crudum. This second remedy that I've tried to show you here is a sheep. See, sheep again, what does sheep indicate as an animal? What does sheep indicate? Yeah, sheep is pulsatilla. Very good. Good. Roshini, Deepika, yeah. See, what does sheep indicate? Sheep is a very a meek animal, very timid animal. Okay. So, pulsatilla constitutions or pulsatilla women or pulsatilla patient are patient who trust easily, who believe people easily, and they're very timid. So the remedy that we compare it to sheep, they belong to pulsatilla. Now you have another remedy in between, and this is the remedy that we are going to discuss today. This remedy is compared to horse. Yes, many of you got it right. Ayman says, sir, arsenic. Beautiful. Sai says arsenic. Good. Yeah. I am happy. Many of you got the remedy right. Now the next question. Why arsenic is compared to horse? Why arsenic is compared to horse is the next question. Why? Yes. Ulla says, yeah. Majority of you say that arsenic is a very restless thing. So what you also see is horse as a creature is known to be a very restless creature. Okay,
And similarly, in the provings, we see that arsenicum patient is a very restless patient. Okay, so that's one point. And second very important point you have in horse, which you also have in arsenicum mal, is that horse has a greater power of endurance. Okay, fine. So to endure, to bear, meaning for example it could be the weight, horse is used for a lot of things, fine. So the capacity to bear, the horse muscles, they are made up in such a way that it can bear. So what we also observe in arts proving, or from the arts, I'll just try to tell you after some time, arsenic was used by mountaineers. And what was the idea? Why did they use arsenic while climbing mountains? Is there was a belief that ars will act on the muscles and it will strengthen muscles. And when somebody climbs mountains, muscle strain happens a lot. So muscles can endure, muscles can bear better. So these are two reasons you need to remember. One, which majority of you got right. I'm happy. As a second year student, many of you got it right. Horse is restless, so is our arsenic amal. That was the main idea. Second thing, which I just told you, that the endurance, the enduring power in horse is similar to what we see in arsenic amal. Okay, so these are two things I would like to share with you here. And we'll, as we have been doing all these days, we'll keep some objectives so that we don't divert, we focus. The first objective will be the sphere of action and pathogenesis, very important. And the second objective, which I hope we can take it up today, will be the causative factors. What brings on the ailments in arsenic amal? Very important. And the third, if time permits, we'll take up the characteristic symptoms. Okay. So these are the objectives for the day. I hope I'm clear. Fine. So the remedy that is in focus will be arsenic amal. As I told when I started, very important remedy. Many of you might be thinking any remedy this man does, he says it's very important. Honestly, each remedy, fine, that we have in our Materia Medica, they are important. It all depends how you perceive them and it all depends how you apply them. Okay? And as I told you, many homeopaths use this very often and we can't imagine our clinic without arsenic amal. Okay, I should not say this. Many times when we don't know, we prescribe arsenic amal. When we are not getting a clear picture, I know I should not tell this on this platform, but I'm trying to tell you how much faith we homeopaths have in this beautiful remedy and how much we abuse this particular remedy. So if you know the correct indications of arsenic amal, so then the chances of abusing this remedy in your clinics tomorrow will be very, very minimal. So focus, understand this beautiful remedy so that you get a lot of cases and you can cure cases with arsenic amal. So what I was trying to tell you here is arsenic amal was not a discovery by homeopaths. Okay, arsenic amal was used. If you look back into the history, they say since 8th century, arsenic is used as a medicine, or arsenic is used for various ailments. So that old is the medicinal history of arsenic amal. Okay, fine. So when arsenic amal was taken, okay, so what are all the symptoms a person comes up? Fine. Or from where did we get the bulk of symptoms of arsenic amal? So from where did we get the symptoms of arsenic amal? Somebody? How did we get, or from where did we get the symptomatology? There are so many symptoms, fine. There are symptoms related to mind, there are symptoms related to the body. Lot of areas you see arsenic amal acting. So what I want to focus here is this class of us will become very interesting when we apply the knowledge of toxicology in understanding homeopathic arsenic amalgam. So I personally want you students, second year students, in toxicology you have poisoning, and in poisoning you have a heading of arsenic poisoning. So if you read arsenic poisoning and if you also read the materia medica, you will see that a lot of things in arsenic amalgam toxicology, they are also seen in our homeopathic provings. So what I wanted to try to tell you here is the bulk of symptoms that we have in our materia medica of arsenic amalgam, they come either from toxicology, that's the first source, and the important source, as a homeopath, will be drug proving. So majority of the symptoms comes from drug proving. It can also come from toxicology, and it can come from the clinical source, meaning many physicians, they would have contributed the clinical symptomatology of arsenic amalgam, which again we have included in our or which contribute to the bulk of arsenic symptomatology. And the last thing you also have is, for example, somebody takes arsenic amalgam accidentally, so it will come very close to toxicology, and poisoning happens, and then if they die, you do a post-mortem, you see which organ arsenic amalgam affects, etc., etc. Or arsenic poisoning. Over a period of time, arsenic is being taken for some reason. And if you are into thrillers, if you are into detective movies, arsenic was used by somebody to poison somebody else, and they've been giving him arsenic over a period of time, and then slowly at the end of some time, based on his capacity, this person dies. So arsenic poisoning has happened. Okay. So what I want to clear you students is materia medica can be understood better with the help of toxicology. And this is one remedy wherein you can apply this thought that read the toxicology and also read the materia medica, and you will see that so many things will match. Okay, so cultivate the habit of applying the knowledge of toxicology into homeopathic materia medica for a better understanding of this particular subject, that is materia medica. Okay, now we'll quickly talk of the sphere of action. See, I hope you got what I was trying to tell you here. I was trying to tell you the source of information, the source of symptomatology, from where all can we get it in arsenic amalgam. It's a polycrust remedy. If you look into any good materia medica, you have pages of symptoms contributed for arsenic. And definitely you'll be worried from where did such voluminous information about arsenic amalgam come from. So when you get that doubt, these things will help you in answering that particular question. Okay, we'll quickly look at the ailments from, and we'll quickly look at the sphere of action. See, when you look at the sphere of action, you'll be surprised that arsenic is such a deep acting remedy that it will affect every system, every organ, okay, and every tissue of our body. That's the polycrust character of arsenic amalgam. To start with, I am trying to focus about the uh, mucous membrane. Though you have the GIT picture here, the idea is arsenic can act on the mucous membrane of the GIT, of the respiratory, or of the urogenitalia. Acting on the mucous membrane, what will arsenic do? A new word I have tried to introduce here is disinflammatory inflammation, which you all know. Now, this inflammation will go to a next level wherein you see destruction. What is that destruction I'm trying to tell you here is arsenic acting on the mucous membrane. To start with, it causes inflammation. It is not a simple remedy which stops at the level of inflammation. It's a very deep acting remedy. So the action can go further and it can give rise to ulceration. Now the destruction of mucous membrane here means ulceration. Yes, Ulas, ulcers, correct. So it will cause ulceration. So gastric ulcer, duodenal ulcer, or ulcerative colitis from your pathology knowledge. See, I've been insisting, please apply allied subjects in studying materia medica, only then your materia medica will be interesting. Otherwise, this is the most boring subject in our homeopathy. If you just read for the sake of reading, but if you apply, if you understand, the concepts will remain longer in your head, because this is the subject that will be there till your last breath. As a homeopath, this subject is very, very important. Okay, so destructive inflammation, ulcers, is one very important thing I want to concentrate here. Now the second area, see now again remember, a lot of remedies will act on mucous membrane. Okay, as we don't have time, otherwise we could have had a small comparison. We have alumina, we have sulfur, we have bryonia, lot of remedies. And each remedy acting on mucous membrane will have its own effect. What is the effect of arsenic? It will cause destructive inflammation. That should be very, very clear. Okay. The second area, though I've showed you the picture of heart, I wanted you to concentrate on the serous membrane. Heart is covered by serous membrane. Yes, heart is covered by serous membrane. The like what is it, like the peritoneum, the pleura, the pericardium. These are a few examples for serous membrane. Acting on the serous membrane, arsenic, like many other remedies, it will cause effusion. Quickly, which is the other remedy that you should think of for effusions? Acting on the serous membrane. One more remedy. There are many remedies, but think of one more remedy which will cause effusions. Yeah, good. Yes, this is the remedy I wanted. Arpitanjali. Very good. Apis mellifica. Padmini, sulfur is also there, I don't deny. But whenever the word effusion comes, one remedy should come to your mind. And that remedy is Apis mellifica. Good, as a second year student, as you grow, a lot of remedies will keep coming. But minimum, you should know Apis mellifica. Very good. So, one is that its action on the mucous membrane. Second, we were talking of its action on the serous membrane. The third area, which I told you, like mountaineers used to take arsenic so that the muscles will become strong. The muscles can endure the strain that they are going to undertake. So, acting on the muscles, arsenic will increase the power of endurance. Okay, the power of endurance, arsenic. And then we also have arsenic acting on the CNS. Now, acting on the CNS, like many remedies that we saw Dulcamara, we saw Naxwamika. So here it can cause neuralgia, it can cause paralysis. We'll explore more in detail individually after some time. I'm giving you the sphere of action and pathogenesis of arsenic amal. Okay. Now, kidneys, inflammation, nephritis, albuminuria, okay, kidney failure, ARS can be a very good remedy, provided it is indicated. That's very important. Acting on blood, what will arsenic do? See, ARS has a capacity to cause destruction of the blood cells. It could be WBCs or it could be RBCs, it could be platelets, it can cause destruction. So the immediate effect of that, what you say is, you can have anemia, you can have bleeding, you can have disintegration. That's what I was trying to tell you. It can cause destruction. So in many areas, you see destruction. You see destruction. Okay. So it could be the mucous membrane, it could be the RBCs. It will cause destruction. Okay. Now acting on skin. See, one of your friend was talking of jaundice. Good. Now, what made her think of jaundice? Good thought. When you said jaundice, I was also little taken aback. But then, beautiful thinking. Now, what made her think of jaundice? See, arsenicum causes hemolysis. Fine. So naturally, hemolytic anemia. And from your physiology, the distracted blood, the pigment part and the cellular part, whatever happens, that adds to the load on the liver. And it causes, what are all the types of jaundice? Obstructive. What are all the types of jaundice from your physiology and bilirubin levels increases, very good, bilirubin levels increases by the destruction of RBCs, correct. But what are the types? We have three types, good. I mean, what are those three types? One is obstructive, yes. Then, okay, two more. Physiological jaundice, again obstructive jaundice, fine. So, when hemolysis happen, and then when you have destructive jaundice, you probably can think of arsenic amalgam. Good thought, whoever contributed, hemolytic, yes. So we'll get back to the skin. Now skin, what you see is, see now, again skin is very important. Many times we stop only at the level of inflammation, we stop only at the level of eczema. Okay, but a deep acting remedy, a constitutional remedy like arsenic amalgam can also cure gangrene. We have had beautiful experiences in our college IPD, wherein we have taken up cases of gangrene with arsenic or with any other remedy. Many times Merck was indicated, Crotalus, whatever it is. When arsenicum gets indicated, it does wonders. Okay, so gangrene. Now you see this also acting on the respiratory tract, inflammation, bronchitis, asthma, heart, endocarditis, enlarged heart, hypertrophy, liver, liver. Okay, so liver, there can be atrophy of liver or there can be fatty degeneration of liver. Now a question asked by Padmini, sir, arsenic in which type of gangrene? It's a nice question. See, gangrene, we have three varieties. We have wet, we have dry, and we have got gas gangrene. Okay, majority of the times from my practical experience, I have seen arsenicum getting indicated for wet gangrene. Okay, see, this will have a lot of discharges, cadaverous smelling. I'll talk of that a little later. So it causes destruction of all those structures. So what you basically see in arsenic is it gets indicated more in the wet gangrene rather than the dry gangrene. Okay, fine. So I hope the question is answered. We'll go ahead and now if you just see the previous slide and if you just see the present slide, any organ or any tissue you talk of, you see arsenic acting. It's a very deep acting polycrest remedy having action on every organ and tissue. Male genitalia, female genitalia, they are not written here, but you see arsenic acting. Okay, GIT, respiratory, anything you talk of. Okay, so is the first objective clear? What was the first objective we had set for today's class? To understand the sphere of action and pathogenesis. Fine? Yeah, sphere of action and pathogenesis. I hope it is clear. Now, the second objective that we had set was we have to talk of the ailments from. What are the, yes, very good. What are all the causative factors of arsenic amalgam? Ailments from. Now, arsenic has causative factors which mainly comes from eating ice creams or taking cold things. Like for example, you have a chilled Pepsi, you have a chilled juice, and then you have throat pain, then you have feverish feeling, then you have cold, then you have cough. Okay, you can think of arsenic. So because of its affinity for the respiratory tract, so you have cold things, yes, good, cold food. And one more friend of yours was talking of outside food. I'll come to it. Frozen food. Okay, ice creams, frozen things. You take something from the fridge and you gulp it, and then you have a throat irritation, throat pain, fever. One remedy any good homeopath will think of is arsenic amalgam. The third causative factor in arsenic will be fruits. Mind you, when we talk of fruits, we have different varieties of fruits. We have pulpy fruits, like for example, papaya, banana, there are pulpy fruits. Then we have fruits which will have more of water content. Arsenic is a remedy which will have ailments from eating fruits which are having more of water content. Like one of your friend quickly contributes. For example, you eat watermelon, you eat grapes, okay? or you eat musambi, orange, any of those fruits which has got more of water content, those fruits you eat and then somebody lands up with a respiratory problem or a gastric problem, excuse me, the remedy is arsenic amla. So ailments which comes from, yeah, eating fruits which has more of water content. Now this is the remedy that you should remember. We are all here because of this, the cinchona bark. Ailments from bad effects of quinine. During Hahnemann's time, quinine was abused for various problems. Okay, one of the remedies which can antidote the bad effects of quinine is arsenic amla. Okay, so quinine and you know this image, alcohol. You also know smoking, which we saw in Axphamika. Ailments from swimming. Okay, see, ailments from being in the beach, playing in the beach, where you see a lot of moisture, and that moisture affecting them. You can think of arsenic amla. Swimming, or traveling by sea, like for example boat ride, ship ride, whatever. So they're traveling and then they have some problems. For example, they have nausea, they have vomiting. Okay, fine, you can think of arsenic amla. So these are few causative factors. We have many more to come up here. This I already told you. Ailments which comes from mountaineering. Okay, for example, you climb a hill and next day you are down with body pain. You are down with see, for example, we call this as indisposition. You are not used to it. Suddenly one weekend you say, okay, chalo, we will go for trekking, and you will in the josh you will climb the mountain, and next day you feel tired. It's common. But instead of taking rest for a day, you are not still better, then arsenicum can come into the picture. Okay, so mountaineering, and one of your friend contributed outside food. I'll not make it as outside food, I'll put it as decayed food. Ailments after eating spoiled food. Ailments, yeah, after eating spoiled food. Nazreen also has a point. For example, you drink contaminated water. Okay, fine. Or you take I mean knowingly unknowingly you take some decayed food, and then you'll end up with vomiting, then you'll end up with bad loose stools, which you know is a cleansing process. Our body is throwing it out. In your organon you study indisposition, but you wait for some time, it continues. When there is a requirement for a medicine, arsenic can come into play. Okay, so decayed food or other ailments could be like lifting, suppressed skin eruptions, anxiety, stress, a lot of emotional factors you will have, anticipation, listening to some bad news. Okay, and somebody's death, hmm? Grief, sadness, these are all few emotional factors. I'll talk in detail when I tell you about the mentals of arsenic, but these are few ailments I want you to remember. One more small picture is missing, and that is that of ailments from injuries. Okay, dissecting wounds. For example, while dissecting, scalpel cuts, and then that part goes into gangrene. Remember, this is a beautiful remedy. Hmm? Okay, injuries turning into gangrene. We also have lacuses, but arsenic is also a remedy you should remember. Okay, is the second objective clear? You want any repetition, or you want me to comment on anything? If at all you have any doubts, let me have a look at the chat box. Sir, can given, yeah, yeah, see, for mountain sickness it can be given, yes, agreed. It can be given for, see, not mountain sickness. Yeah, Ullas, it's a nice question. What Ullas wants to know is, can arsenic be given for mountain sickness? See, we have got better remedies. We have got remedies like coca for mountaineers. But this is a remedy. See, here it will act on the muscles and it will help the muscle deal with the muscular activities better. See, when you talk of mountain sickness, there can be a lot of ear hunger, As you go high, here the oxygen level would be less. There, the better remedy will be coca. Coca, Ullas. I hope I'm clear. Coca. And seasickness, yes, arsenic can be used. It's also a very good remedy. But in our Materia Medica, we have got better remedies for seasickness. Like we have cocculus, we have tobacco, we have petroleum, we have sepia, and many more remedies. Fine. Arsenic can also be a remedy. Arnica, yes, arnica can also be a remedy that can be given for muscle strain, which happens after mountain climbing. Yes, but to bear the muscular activities, arsenic is a better remedy. Yes, arnica, absolutely right. Beautiful thinking, Padmini. She talks of arnica. See now, arnica, as you know, has its own characteristic pain. In pain, they have that sore, bruised feeling. They have that touch which aggravates. Okay, and like arsenic, arnica also will be restless, but arnica will be searching for a soft place. I don't know if I've done arnica for you, but what you need to understand in arnica is the softest part in arnica when they have got this pain, sore bruised pains, the softest part will feel hard for them, and that's why they keep moving around. Arsenic also keeps moving around, but arsenic is not looking for a soft thing. Arsenic will be restless, and the pains will drive him away. He is not in search of a soft place like arnica, but the pains will keep him, driving from one place to another place. The restlessness will keep him driving from one place to another place. I hope that is clear. But anyway, I'm happy. You're interacting. You're coming out with new remedies. Fine, good. Keep it up. That's what is expected from a good student, from a good batch. Huh? Good. Keep it up. We'll go ahead with our third objective. Now, how does arsenic look? I told you it's a constitutional remedy. So, what is the physical appearance of arsenic? Okay. See here, we can discuss it under different levels. Generally, there are many homeopaths just looking at the physical appearance, they tell the remedy. You please don't venture into this. They have got this knowledge from their vast experiences. They would have seen so many patients over a period of time, and they say, see, this is arsenic. And for us to go to that level, it will take a lot of hard work. Okay, but what I want to try to tell you is when you look at the physical appearance of arsenic, generally they look very neat, very clean, very fastidious kind of look is what you have in arsenic. I'm talking to you about the dressing sense. But when you look at the physical appearance, generally arsenic will be lean, thin, they'll be emaciated, fine, and there will be a lot of debility, there will be a lot of weakness. This is how they physically look. Lean, thin, weak, emaciated, and they look, yes, exhausted or they look debilitated. This is one angle. The other thing I'll describe under the mind part of arsenic about the fastidiousness, about the OCDs, which many of you are contributing, that will take it up under the mentals of arsenic Amal. So this is the physical appearance, and arsenic is a very chilly patient. It's not fearful, no problem. He's covering from head to toe. Is covering. Probably the expression also looks a little feverish. I mean, sorry, a fearful expression. So arsenic can be chilly. Not can be chilly. Arsenic is chilly patient. And shall we quickly take up the characteristic symptoms? Are you clear with what I've tried to convey? The first thing is the sphere of action, the pathogenesis, very important. See, even if we take one class extra, it will not matter. What matters is whatever is told should enter, should remain, and tomorrow you should reflect this knowledge and you should apply it in your clinical practice. Only then this hard work or will make some value, will have some value. Okay, so am I clear, all of you, all these 70 plus students that we have today here? I hope I'm clear. Okay, we'll go ahead with the characteristic symptoms. Yeah, many of you say yes, good. Yes, thank you, and we'll go ahead with the characteristic symptoms. Now, looking at the characteristic symptoms, the first thing I want you to understand here, and I would also like to introduce a great homeopath here, Nash, Dr. E.B. Nash. See, he had something called as trios. Though we have got so many remedies, he took pains in identifying three major remedies, and that's what we call it as Nash trios of remedies. Okay, and one such Nash trios of remedies that you have here is it is trios of burners. Trios of burners. So, which are all the other two? Which will have burning to this extent that Nash feels they should be given a lot of importance. One is arsenic. It's not cancerous, no problem. Cancerous also has burning. Yeah, Sana and Leka gets it right. Sulfur. And which is the third one? Very good. Somebody says it phosphorus. Yes, good. Phosphorus. Beautiful. So these are all Viva questions and these are all practical things you should remember. Trios of burners, we have arsenic, we have sulfur, and we have phosphorus. First characteristic symptom. So you see a lot of burning in arsenic amal. We'll explain the burning a little later. The other trios that arsenicum fits in here is trios of restless remedies. Again, you might have some 170, 180 remedies which are restless. But Nash takes the pain in identifying those three top remedies which are very restless. Very good. One is aconite. Yes, beautiful, good. The answer is right. Yeah, yeah. Many of you have got it right. Good. Keep it up. One is aconite, second is rustox, and third is arsenic amal. Aconite will have more of mental restlessness. And rustox, you all know, they will have more of physical restlessness. Rustox, like arsenic, can't sit in a place, he has to keep moving. Now, why Rustox moves? Because movement ameliorates his pain. He's a very restless person. So, aconite is mentally restless. There's a lot of anxiety. He can't be at peace. There is a lot of chaos happening in the mind. Aconite. Rustox is physical restlessness. In this particular remedy, arsenic amal, you will have a combination of physical and mental restlessness. Okay. So physical and mental restlessness is arsenic. Only physical restlessness is rustox. And if it is only mental restlessness, it is aconite. Okay. The pains in arsenic amal. The pains, though it has got different types of pains, one pain I want to highlight here for today's class is burning pains, as if some hot needles have been pierced. Burning pains. Now, what is very important for us when you talk of the burning pains? Burning pain better by warmth. Now, this is precurious. Do you agree? When it burns, what do you do? What do you feel like doing? You feel like keeping it in cold water. Okay. But if he is arsenic amal, if he is keeping it in cold water, what will happen? The burning increases. And if they keep it in warm water, the burning decreases. Okay. Now that is very, very characteristic. We have used in our clinics, verified this symptom. When somebody says burning and we ask them what gives you relief. Sir, for example, he's got fissures, anal fissures, and it burns. He washes with cold water and the burning increases. And as an experiment, you would have washed with warm water or hot water and it feels better. Sir, it is burning, but I feel better applying warm water or applying hot water. The remedy, first remedy, there might be many remedies, I don't deny. I am promoting arts or I am teaching arts today. And what you have to understand is arts is one remedy which has got a lot of value here, or it stands out when burning is better by warm application or burning better by heat. Okay, and this is the debility we were talking of. Many cases of arsenic amal, when they are ill, the weakness will be out of proportion to the illness. Okay, they might be sick, but from your experience, you understand this amount of sickness should not give to this amount of weakness. So the weakness, the prostration, the debility is out of proportion to the disease they are suffering. Now that is arsenic amal. Okay. and periodicity. Now, I like to add three things here. Periodicity is the time aggravation. In arsenic amal, please remember very important 12 to 2. Okay, every day between 12 to 2 a.m. or 12 to 2 p.m. Afternoons or midnights, they might have aggravation. Very characteristic. And you cannot afford to forget this. Very, very important. Second thing is complaints coming every 14 days. Complaints coming every 14 days. Or complaints coming every year, annual periodicity. So complaints coming every 2 weeks, complaints coming daily between 12 to 2 a.m. or 12 to 2 p.m. or complaints coming yearly or annually. Now this is the periodicity that you have in arsenic amal. Am I clear? 12 to 2 a.m. p.m. 14 days, 365 days yearly. Don't forget. And here I am trying to focus on the discharges. The discharges in arsenic, they're very offensive. Okay, I mean they can be thin, they can be acrid. Discharges from the nose, thin, acrid. The leukorrhea, the saliva, any discharge you talk of, the diarrhea, they can be thin, acrid. Very important for you is offensive. Yes, it is profuse, offensive. Now, what is the offensiveness you have in arsenic? You'll have to go back to your anatomy dissection hall. Cadaverous smelling discharges. Okay, when something decays, yeah. See, when I say acrid, I also mean it is ex excoriating. It excoriates. Somebody has told it excoriates. Good. So thin, acrid, excoriating, offensive, and in arsenic. See, each remedy offensivity will be something different. Now, what is the offensivity you have in arsenic is it is like cadaverous smelling. It is cadaverous smelling. Now, this is the discharges. See, each of these points that I'm trying to highlight here has a lot of value. Anything that you are not clear, please feel free to ask. I don't mind explaining. But this concept should be there deep inside. And whenever it is required, you should come out and you should start applying. Okay. So these are 6. I have few more. Now, when you talk about the desires, what exactly arsenicum likes in eating? First thing,